Good evening, everyone. I'm Freddie Clairvaux. Thank you so much for joining us for a special edition of Watch Fox News. Tonight, we're focusing on the barriers people face when they have paid their debt to society. This special is entitled Second Chances, Locked Out After Lockup. We have a number of guests tonight who understand what it feels like to try to get ahead, but only to be stopped because of their past. Our Brian McConkey is standing by with some of those guests as well, and we'll check in with him shortly. Well, that brings us to the story of a local mother working at a local Burger King. Many of you by now might have heard of Nakia Hamilton. Her story went viral after someone posted a video on TikTok in early July. Now, this is a Watch Fox exclusive. We were able to speak directly with her. She is a single mother of 3. She was in the middle of what she says was a shift lasting more than 12 hours at a Burger King in Irmo. That's flipping burgers, taking several orders, and keeping everything clean all alone for more than a half a day. She was doing her very job. Well, so that grabbed our attention, so we reached out to Hamilton a day after the video was posted to figure out what happened. She tells us one of her employees had just quit and no one else was able to come in, so she was working by herself. When we asked why didn't she leave the store, Hamilton said she's a single mother and needs to provide for her 3 children. She also says she wouldn't have a job in the first place without the chance she got from her manager.
I wouldn't have no job because I do have a record, and it's hard to find a job with a record. And by grace of God, she gave me a job, so that's the only reason why I stayed for her.
Well, just like Nakia, there are so many people with a record, and it's hard to find a job. As a matter of fact, according to the National Reentry Resource Center, listen to this, nearly 1 in 3 adults in South Carolina, that's 1.1 million people, have a criminal record. Many of them also have trouble finding a job, not because they're unqualified, but because employers are concerned about hiring people with a criminal record. And that brings us to the first panel of our guests who are here to talk about it. Joining us now, Byron Gibson, Fifth Circuit Solicitor, Lester Young, Path to Redemption, and Allison Elder with a Time Served. Thank you all so much for being here with us tonight.
Thank you for having us.
And we know this is definitely a topic that we need to discuss when we have to talk about. There are so many layers. Even before, during the commercial break, we were speaking about those layers. Lester, we want to start off with you. Many people who have been rehabilitated like yourself, the major issue, and we're hearing, is finding a job. Can you attest to that?
Yes, as I mentioned earlier, is that as a person who's formerly incarcerated, I did 22 years and 5 months in the South Carolina prison system, and one of the biggest challenge was not me lacking the skill set, it was me finding an employment. And many employers choose not to hire me based upon the felony convictions, and they never gave me or anyone like myself an opportunity to be able to tell the story and what happened. So a crime that happened in 1992, I'm still being denied employment. Here it is 2025, individuals still being denied employment for a crime that they committed at 19 years old. So that's one of the biggest challenges individuals face, getting out of prison, that legal collateral consequences tied to a person's felony conviction, the invisible shackles after prison.
How was it for you getting a job? Were you able to find a job?
No, as I mentioned earlier, one of the biggest, I remember getting out of prison, my first month out of prison, I was working for $50 a day, and that's $10, for 10 hours, making $50 a day, and at the end of the day, I may get $250, and I'm running this entire business. I was the manager of this particular business. I was getting $50 a day because the individual realized that I had a felony conviction, and then they saw an opportunity, what we now understand, I understand back then as well, it was exploiting my labor for the benefit of the opportunity.
And all because of your record?
My record is the reason why they chose to pay me that amount of money, because I had a felony conviction. They felt like it was doing me a favor at the time.
Solicitor Gibson, your office prides itself on helping individuals who also have been rehabilitated. How does that process work exactly?
And that's complicated on a couple areas. One of the areas that we work in most and where we can do the most good is in situations where somebody has been convicted and it's been a misdemeanor of some sort, then that can qualify for expungement. And so one of the things we want to make sure that we do is in situations where, let's say, a case has been dismissed or there is a not guilty, those need to be expunged outright. Because a lot of times people will be convicted of a situation and it's a misdemeanor, but they just don't realize that, or they pay a fine and they don't realize that it's still on their record. And so employers oftentimes will see those situations on their record, and even if it's a not guilty and it was not expunged, they'll see those things on their record, and it can inhibit them from getting housing, it can inhibit employment, and sometimes even impact credit. And so one of the things we talk about a good bit is when you qualify for an expungement, coming to see our office so we can help you with that process.
Allison Elder, you work with a lot of individuals who have been formerly incarcerated. How does your group help those who have been there before?
So I co-founded and direct a legal aid called Time Served, and we work with currently and formerly incarcerated people, helping remove the legal barriers to their second chance. One of the main things we do in the reentry space is record cleaning, to like what Solicitor Gibson was discussing. We're so lucky in South Carolina that we do have embedded staff within all of the solicitors' offices that are processing those expungement applications. But sometimes people don't know where to start. I know there was one study that only 13% of people that tried to pursue record cleaning without a lawyer were successful in receiving any, whereas 70% that spoke with a lawyer and worked with a lawyer were able to get some record cleaning within 6 to 7 months. Sure. So we really encourage people, if you've never seen your background, it's kind of like going to the dentist when you don't know what's wrong. Go ahead and take a look, speak to a legal aid attorney such as ourselves, because you don't know what's possible until you speak with a legal professional.
One of the things, going back to what Lester even mentioned, it's hard for individuals to get a job, so it's hard for them to get a lawyer. How are they going to pay for an attorney if they need assistance? What is it like, you all helping those individuals? Is it a process to get an attorney as yourself?
Yes, so we work with people that can't afford lawyers. We're really fortunate that we're able to run as a nonprofit legal aid with the support of the South Carolina Bar Foundation and other foundations and individual donors that believe in second chances. Because really finances shouldn't be a barrier to access to justice. I think that one thing that sometimes stops people along the process is concerns about, well, how much are these expungements going to cost me? It can add up, but even if somebody's record is not eligible for expungement, which is like erasure, right? It's not going to be publicly viewable anymore, your record. Everything in South Carolina that's a South Carolina conviction is eligible for a pardon. And so there is a special process for state's forgiveness that everyone can go through, and that application is $100. So $100 for what is a life-changing certificate from the Board of Pardons that will help somebody get jobs, housing, etc.
A lot of topics there. Of course, we're going to have to go to our first commercial break, but after that, we are going to take a look at our forecast for this day, and then also our Brian McConkey is going to join us as well with some more guests as we are talking about second chances, locked out after lockup. Stay with us.
Still good with the battery? Yep. Am I tossing a break?
Yes.
Okay.
After you move Brian,
1 minute. Check, check, check. 1, 2, 1, 2. Check, check, check. 30 seconds. We'll get back to our special here in just a moment, but let's get a check of our current conditions outside. 88 degrees in Columbia, feeling like 97. Earlier this afternoon, we were as hot as 95, which is at least a little bit cooler than the past few days, but still a very July hot day out there across the Midlands. Now, we have had some storms help cool some of us off at this hour. Not seeing too much rain. We have some storms in northern Clarendon County, a little bit of rain moving into Newberry County as well, but a bit of a lull in the Midlands for the time being. Having said that, between now and midnight tonight, we could still have at least some scattered showers and storms across the area. These will generally be moving from the north to the south. Again, by midnight, we should be done with that threat. And we're looking at a dry late night period, and tomorrow looking pretty quiet for us as well. If you're looking for a pleasant day, tomorrow is your best bet for a while. Only a 20% chance at rainfall, less humidity compared to recent days, which is a rare treat for us this time of the year. Don't get used to it. We're back to the mid and upper 90s Friday through the weekend, and the heat index will certainly return to the triple digits late this week as well. We'll have more of our Watch Fox News special coming up right after this.
Welcome back to this Watch Fox special program, looking at second chances, locked out after being locked up. A situation where many people who are formerly incarcerated have a great difficulty getting back into the workforce, getting that chance that they are all looking for. We're joined here now in this segment by William Harrison and Savannah Grant. Both of you work in reentry. You work for the Bridge. Also, I have a ministry that is part of that. You're a licensed esthetician, but you also do peer support. Yes. You help people that are going through an experience that you've lived yourself. You've done this type of work now for decades. For decades.
21 years. Yeah.
Tell us how the process works. When does it start? Do you reach out as someone's reaching the end of a sentence and you decide what?
We decide that we want to give them an opportunity by interviewing them. The chaplain may send me an application and say this person would love to join your ministry, and we'll give them an application. I'll look over the application. I'll do a phone interview with them to find out whether or not they are qualified for our ministry. If they qualify, I'll send that information out to a couple other people that help me make that decision. Once I do that, they'll give me an answer back. I'll call the chaplain back, or I'll call the caseworker back, and I'll let them know whether or not we'll accept them.
And the next step is linking them to an employer, and you have a database of people that you know you can trust to do that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We have a database of employers that say we'll hire them no matter what their charges are. So we'll determine, once we get them in process into the ministry, we'll make a determination on where they need to be, because if a person is working where they love working, they're going to do the job much better. So we try to get them with the employer that they're a better fit.
Yeah. You had an experience where you would get the job,
Yes.
but you weren't necessarily able to stay on it. That was the challenge for you.
Yes, that has been a challenge for me repeatedly.
Yeah.
So because I am just as impacted, I served 17 and a half years off of a 20-year sentence in the Department of Corrections. So with employers checking my background, it wouldn't come up
Yeah.
because it was so long ago. However, once I start the job and
Someone finds out.
someone finds out and I lose the job.
Yeah. So what you did, you said, you know what?
So I got tired of losing jobs and not being able to provide for myself. So I said I need to be my own boss. So I went back to school, and now I'm a licensed esthetician.
Yeah. Yeah. And you help people in
Yes.
similar positions.
Yes.
Because you
and
know the experience. Yeah.
Yes, I do know the experience. So I also teach a pre-release class in 2 of the females institutions at Camille Griffin Graham and Goodman Correctional Institution. So I also help them find housing, resumes, employment, things of that sort.
Yeah. And those are all things you're doing too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
And to hear what she had to go through, though, where she would be on the job doing well, it's
Yes.
got to make your heart hurt.
And we have people do that.
Yeah.
We have people that get the job, they're doing well, and they do an in-depth background check on them, and next thing you know, they lose the job.
Yeah. Is there anything that a group like yours can do to help in a case like that? I know you do a lot of work on the front end, but what
Right.
about if the guy comes back to you with a challenge?
Well, if you come back to me with
Yeah.
a challenge, what we'll usually do is we'll send them to what we call a vocational rehabilitation program, and they'll go in there and they'll do an evaluation on them and find out where will you best fit. And so they'll try to place them on a job as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And teaching that class, you know, that's got to be pretty rewarding for you.
Actually, it is very rewarding, simply because for so many years I didn't understand why people would always come back.
Yeah.
And I didn't understand that until I got out. But my mindset was different from most individuals. I couldn't give up, and going back to prison wasn't an option for me. So I had to create my own job for myself.
Yeah. Yeah. And for them to see that story, that's going to make a big impact on them, knowing that that's someone that came from the position they were in can get there. We're going to wrap up this segment. Savannah Grant, thank you so much. William, thank you so much. We're going to hear more from you later, but we're going to go to break right now. But when we come back, we'll go back to Friendy Clairvaux and the panel.
Welcome back to this Watch Fox special entitled Second Chances Locked Out After Locked Up. Joining us now for our panel is Candace Beasley with Benedict College's Best Lives Center. And of course, we have Lester Young, who joined us again, as well as Byron Gibson, the Fifth Circuit solicitor. Candace, thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
We're going to get to you. This Best Lives Center, what is it all about?
So Benedict took on the opportunity to assist those that are currently informally incarcerated, as well as military families, formerly fostered, and adult learners. So we are basically a community resource. Being someone who was formerly incarcerated, I did 8.5 years in SCDC, and so to be able to come back and to provide the resources such as housing, information. We do skills and trades, tuition assistance. We can assist with registering for college. We assist with food poverties, just basically anything that you would need coming out. I've been there, so I would know how to assist and get those resources.
And you have that compassion, that level of compassion.
I definitely do. It's my passion.
And Solicitor Gibson, to that point, how can I live my best life if I'm shackled, like Lester was saying, because we have all these different things?
Right. It's difficult, and there are a lot of hard choices that people are often having to make. But one of the things that in our office we pride ourselves on is we're ministers of justice as prosecutors. And so as we have these programs, some of those programs which involve expungements, as we talked about, become of crucial importance to our office. I mean, last year alone, we did, I believe, 1,121 expungements. So that's 1,121 people's records that were cleaned that we were able to assist with.
Giving them a new lease on life.
That's right. That's right. And one of the keys about it is, and I know we talked about having attorneys to do it, you do not have to have an attorney for an expungement. Now, there can be more complicated situations where it's good to consult, but we say call us because it's free. And so you give us a call. You can get your criminal record. That costs you about $25 or so that you can get from SLED online, and then we'll review it with you. We have a department and people who are trained to review that record with you, and they'll review it and tell you the things that are free, because some things are absolutely free to expunge, and then there's some things that may require a fee of some sort, but we'll talk to you about what those fees are. Oftentimes we'll have expungement seminars, and so, for instance, there's going to be one next week that Senator Tamika Isaac Devine is sponsoring over at Eau Claire High School. I think it's the 31st of July, and that's going to be an opportunity to learn about how the process works, what can be expunged. And sometimes there are vendors who will pay for, or nonprofits like the Rainy Day Foundation, that will actually pay for those expungements. And so we have those seminars multiple times a year. We've done them over at Benedict before. Over, I think, 300 or so people came, and we were able to assist many of them. But we want to just continue to do those things because that's the low-hanging fruit.
And that's what it's about, these resources and helping those individuals. We have to go to a commercial break. When we come back, folks, we're going to speak with Lester Young, our panel again, Solicitor Gibson, as well as Candace Beasley as well. Stay with us because we have much more on this Watch Fox special entitled Second Chances Locked Out After Lockup. Thank you once again for joining us for Watch Fox's special entitled Second Chances, Locked Out After Lockup. We've had the opportunity during this newscast to talk to a number of guests, formerly incarcerated individuals, and to give out information and resources for those who need it. Of course, this is a subject that is near and dear to us, so we wanted to bring that to our community. And we're asking you, even though right now this newscast is wrapping up, we're asking you to please join us on our YouTube page as well as our social media platforms and also our website at watch.com. We will continue this conversation right now digitally. Once again, stay with us, follow our Watch Fox YouTube page, and go to our website at watch.com, where we will continue this conversation with Solicitor Byron Gibson as well as Lester Young, as well as some of our other guests that we have here. And we will check back in as well with our Brian McConkey for more information, folks who don't want to miss the next portion of this special. And as well, right now you see this QR code that's on your screen. Go ahead and scan that QR code and get all the information that you need. Somebody you know may need that information, so go ahead and scan that QR code right now and help that person out. Once again, stay with us here as we continue this conversation on our social media platforms. Thank you so much for joining us for this Watch Fox special on our digital platform, where we have this special entitled Second Chances, Locked Out After Lockup. And this focus of this conversation is to bring light and resources to those who are formerly incarcerated and understanding the barriers that these individuals face. We have a number of guests that we'll be speaking to at this hour, and our Brian McConkey will also join us with a panel of guests as well. And right now, of course, welcoming back to this special, we have Fifth Circuit Solicitor Byron Gibson, as well as Lester Young, who is the founder of Path to Redemption. Thank you all so much once again for staying. We know it's been a long time here, but we appreciate you all so much for staying with us to continue this conversation digitally. You know, Lester, I want to start back out with you here. You know, we've been speaking about the different resources that are available, about individuals trying to get back into society. You may have those individuals who say, this person, yes, they served their time, but the nature of the crime, they shouldn't be back enjoying the fruits of life as other individuals. What do you say to that?
I was that makes me look and step back a minute, right? Because I'm a formerly incarcerated person who was convicted of murder, did 22 years in the South Carolina prison system, but that does not define who I am at this present time. I'm a man who is an entrepreneur, a husband, a father, someone who's committed to transformation. And for someone to say that I don't deserve that opportunity, the reason why we created a criminal justice system, we call it justice, is that when we sentence a person and that person has completed their time, that means that that system has rehabilitated that person, and that person should now be able to walk back into our society and be able to begin his or her life. And so if we believe in that system, then we have to believe in second chance, meaning that once that person is done, that person should have an opportunity. But unfortunately, that's not the case, because as I mentioned, the invisible shackles are still tied to that person that a lot of people don't really see, but they're there with us, which is called that scarlet letter, formerly incarcerated individuals.
And give us examples of some of those invisible shackles for those who might not even understand what you're talking about.
Yeah, what we call them collateral consequences. Nationally, it's 48,000. South Carolina, roughly about 1,400 collateral consequences. When it ties down to employment opportunities, housing, occupational licensing, SNAP benefits, even as an entrepreneur, certain insurances or loans are not even given to an entrepreneur who starts a business because they have a felony conviction. Life insurance, some individuals apply for life insurance and they're not able to get it because when they do a background check, they say that that person has a risky behavior, so they're not able to even get life insurance. So those are some of the examples of what they call legal invisible barriers that every state has put in place. And these laws have been in place for the last 20, 30 years and no one is thinking about them now. And now, unless those have been impacted or you have a family member that's been impacted by the laws.
And speaking of the law, so that goes points to you, Solicitor Gibson. Obviously, there are certain things you can and you cannot do. So speak to that, those invisible shackles. How can people move forward when you have those invisible shackles?
It's difficult, but the best thing is education, community, you know, so that we can have these conversations, because when you talk about these shackles, the things that can change or laws can change, but it requires, you know, people to be active with their representatives and to start talking a little bit more and shining some sunlight on to the issue so that some of these shackles can possibly be removed. It's got to be done legislatively. And so that's where, you know, having people who understand, who are like-minded, who understand the benefit that this segment of the population, this formerly incarcerated segment of the population can bring. There's a lot of brainwidth and bandwidth that's there. There's a lot of man and woman power that's there. You know, folks have, you know, made a mistake. They've paid for that mistake. So let's not keep setting them further and further behind the 8 ball. Let's give them opportunities to have this American dream that we say is attainable to everyone.
And Lester, one story that stood out the most, you mentioned earlier that you had to get a job and $50 a day.
Yeah.
What has that path been like for you from going from there to now you're an entrepreneur?
I mean, it was a test. It was a test for me, my resolve, but as I mentioned to you, because I made the investment while I was in prison, even though because I had a violent crime, I was excluded from most of the programs, I still made the personal investment in myself. So I saw that $50 job as an opportunity for me, right? Most people don't have that opportunity, but I saw it as an opportunity. It's not fair that anyone comes home from prison should make $50 a day. And when I was in prison, I was making $7.25. Right here, as I come home from prison, and I'm making less than that right now. I mean, at that time, because individuals saw me with that scarlet letter, having a felony conviction, see that and wanted to exploit that by paying me $50 a day.
Solicitor, again, your office, some of the resources that you all offer, you talk about expungements and you talk about some other things as well.
Correct.
Now, is there a particular restriction on it? Is it for all convictions?
Expungements are going to be for nonviolent. Well, let's start over. So expungements will be for misdemeanors, is what we're talking about. And so the thing there is that oftentimes there are people that have a series of these convictions, even if it may be a domestic violence situation. There may be a failure to stop for a blue light, some other things that are 30-day offenses and less. And those add up. And so again, if there are situations that were, maybe the court case was dismissed, they were found not guilty, or maybe if the only thing that was there may have been a domestic violence situation, then after 5 years you qualify if you've had no other convictions to have that removed. If there's been a failure to stop for a blue light after 3 years, that can be removed. And so that's where the counseling from our office becomes important. That doesn't cost you a penny. Give us a call. you do need to get your criminal record, which you can obtain from SLED. I think it's sled.org. It costs you about $25. Come equipped with that. We can sit down with you and counsel you on those things that can be taken off. And so again, the felonies we can't do anything with. That's where the parole and the pardon process has to happen that was being talked about by Ms. Elder a little bit ago. That becomes important there, but these other matters can be things that can prevent you from getting housing. They can prevent you from getting jobs and professional licensing. If you can remove those misdemeanors, it makes it a little bit simpler to I won't say simpler, but it makes the process a little quicker to get the other matters removed. But if you can get them expunged, again, we can counsel you on that, and we do that every day. I mean, 1,121 of those we did last year.
Before we move on to our Brian McConkey, who has some guests that are standing by as well. Lester, one last thing for you. You did mention something you said when you were in prison that you worked. So are we seeing a number of some prisons offering different resources or schooling to help those as they move out of the prison?
Most likely some of them are, but you find some organizations see where prison labor can benefit from prison labor. So some organizations and businesses are now putting in their businesses into prison, and they're being able to no longer have to pay for a lot of the labor costs and all that stuff. They can pay the bare minimum of $7.25, which this job may be $25 in the world. They're now bringing into a prison, and these individuals are now being still underpaid, even though they're making it $7.25. The job requires $25 for it, but because they're in prison, these companies are seeing an opportunity to get it for a lower cost, and now they're taking jobs out. And these same jobs that we worked in prison, when I come home from prison, I can't apply for the job. Just like I tell people, you look at the State House today, and you'll see a person walking in a brown uniform around the State House. That person, when they get out of prison, they can't go back out there and apply for a job. You know what I mean? So we see that the labor of people who are incarcerated, we can exploit that labor even while they're in prison. And when they come home, the same company I work for in prison, I'm not able to apply to get a job with that company. So we have to change that whole paradigm shift with that. If I'm good enough to work in the prison for you, why can I apply for it when I walk out of prison?
I see what you're saying. Of course, we are continuing this conversation with this Watch Fox special entitled Second Chances Locked Out After Lockup. We're going to go ahead and send it over to our Brian McConkey, who is standing by with some other panel guests to offer their perspective and their resources as well. And Brian?
Thank you, Friendy. Back over here, we're talking to William Harrison and Savannah Grant. We heard from you not long ago, but some of the topics that were just being discussed over there by both Lester and the solicitor, you both have expertise in housing. It's a difficult thing for someone as they're transitioning back in. We didn't touch upon that in your previous segment. Where do you come in helping people get into housing?
Well, like you say, it's a very difficult situation because they do a background check. And if their background check come back that they had a felony, or they can deny them housing, and we see that a lot. But I have a few people that do real estate housing that I can call and say, hey, I got a couple of people that need some housing, and they will accept them. So I've got out and done my homework. I went out and what we call beat the bushes a little bit. And I've got a few housing people that will take some ex-offenders. Very few. Like he was saying, it's a difficult situation because nobody really wants to give that opportunity to these guys. But we do have some, and I must say it's changing. You know, I see the process of doing it for 21 years. I see where we're getting more and more people that are willing to give people a chance. So it's a positive there.
Yeah. I would imagine that's you teach the class at some of the women's institutions.
Yes.
For those getting ready to transition to the outside again. I know this is probably part of that process, talking about housing. You told me something during the commercial break, though, that was so troubling to me. You said that you had to deal with issues of identity theft yourself, and you have to teach women that this could happen to them.
Yes.
And you're going to have to wipe all that clean before you transition out again. Tell me a little bit what happened to you.
So, during my incarceration, my identity was stolen. My credit was ruined. Someone had gotten apartments in Richland County under my name and all sorts of stuff. So I knew that the value of money wasn't what it was before I had left. So I needed to have good credit. So I wrote Equifax, TransUnion, Experian, just to see what that looked like on my credit and what I needed to do once I got out. So now going back teaching my pre-release class, I offer a credit builder's list and the steps to remove those inquiries off of their credit report.
Tough situation to be sure. Now you recently relocated to North Carolina from South Carolina.
Yes.
The reason for that, you find it to be easier in the state of North Carolina. They're more hospitable.
Yes, it has been, and that saddens me because I love South Carolina. This is home, but it wasn't treating me like home. So I definitely had to relocate so I could provide for myself. So I also, I'm a peer support specialist in North Carolina as well. I help justice impacted individuals getting out of prison, federal and state as well. Pretty much just helping them navigate through life and assisting them with employment, again, resumes, whatever they need, clothing to help them coming home.
Yeah. To hear her say that, William, that that North Carolina is more open for folks. Do you see that yourself? I mean, I know you're based here in South Carolina.
Right. Haven't had a lot of experience with North Carolina. I've heard guys say that, you can go up there and get some things done that you can't get done in South Carolina. But I think we do have a lot of people in South Carolina that are like my brother over here that's saying, he's got out of prison and he's knocked down a lot of doors and opened some doors for some people. So I think there are opportunities being open. It might not be in the area that she was in at the time, but I know up in Spartanburg, South Carolina, South Carolina is considered the third givingest city it is in the world. So you think about that, they're willing to give to what we're doing. It might not be at the level of where you were and what you was doing at the time, but I know in certain areas that we are able to accomplish a lot. So I feel like South Carolina might be a little behind the bar, but they are working to catch up with.
They're trying to move forward.
They're trying to move forward. Exactly.
And you told her, you heard her tell her story too about what she had to deal with in terms of identity theft. You too, when you're helping people, when you're interviewing them, you're trying to get some basic things done in a lot of cases too. Trying to get credit reports done, trying to get some of the things. Tell me a little bit about that process, where you just maybe even trying to help someone get an ID again.
Right. Well, I give all the glory to my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, who leads me and guides me in helping people. I myself had to work on my identity when I got out. Didn't have identity theft taking place, but I still had to work on some things that I had to write to different credit bureaus to get taken off of my file. So I help my guys do that as well. And we've got several other entities in South Carolina, in Spartanburg I should say, that will take them in, like the Fatherhood Coalition, different other entities that will help them get these things taken off their record and get them to a point where they can move back into society and do well.
Savannah, with the teaching you do, do you have some success stories that you've been a part of so far that you can think of? Some of these women that you've helped.
Yes, I do, and it's very gratifying because I don't want to see them go back. I believe if you change your mindset, then you can change your future. it starts with the mindset.
Yes.
No matter how many times I've been denied or let go from a job, did it hurt? Absolutely. But I know I had to keep going. And I had to exercise my faith. Without God, without knowing His promises, I wouldn't be able to have overcome those obstacles.
I know that speaks to you for sure.
It does, and that's one of the things that I believe, as an executive director of a ministry, where I have to make the decision on these guys that are coming out of incarceration, I have to be prayerful. I have to believe that Jesus Christ is going to lead me and guide me and help me make those decisions that need to be made, because these are critical decisions that have to be made for people that have been incarcerated. Yep. They have to have had some kind of change take place in their life. The brother earlier was talking about how, rehabilitation needs to take place in that system, the prison system, in order for a person to get rehabilitated. And I think that a lot of that takes place with the Christian ministries, the different ministries that are inside the prison that these guys are going to help them make these decisions on what they need to do. And that's why, we're a faith-based ministry. We believe that if a man has given his life to Jesus Christ and he's decided that I'm tired of being tired, I'm ready to go forward and do what's right, well, that man I can put on my list. I can say, this is a man that I'm gonna try to help because he's willing to take that step to help himself. So.
William Harris and Savannah Grant, thank you so much. We're going to wrap up this segment of Second Chances Locked Out After Lockup. We're going to go to a short break right now, but we will come back and we'll be speaking with, we'll be hearing from Friendly and the panel of guests.
All right, we are continuing our conversation with Watch Fox's special edition today entitled Second Chances Locked Out After Lockup. Joining us once again is Allison Elder with Time Served. We have Lester Young, Path to Redemption, and Fifth Circuit Solicitor Byron Gibson. Again, towards the beginning of the show, we talked about the single mom who worked at Burger King and Nakia. She mentioned Nakia Hamilton. One of the major issues that she had was that people online were telling her, just quit and just go home. And she said, no, I have to work to support my family. And also because of the fact that she had a record and her manager took a chance and gave her the job. So speak to the aspect of someone being afraid of hiring someone with a record.
One of the things, like when I walked out of prison in 2014, I took on the mission to educate companies around why to remove off of the application have you been convicted of a felony, what we call ban the box. That happened in 2018. We was able to move this along in South Carolina. Columbia, South Carolina was the first place that passed it under Mayor Benjamin to remove that application. And what we started realizing is a lot of people all have a subconscious bias and prejudice and fear. So what we started doing was hosting these job fairs with employers, educating them about what are some of the barriers and why address the fear. And a lot of it come, as I mentioned to you earlier, language. Many people just, when you attach ex-felon, ex-con, that's a dehumanizing language that says this person's a convict, he will never change. But when we say formerly incarcerated people, justice impacted individuals, now we started humanizing them. So what we started doing is using my lived experience and experience of others to educate employers about humanizing people and speaking about these barriers. A lot of these HRs don't understand the barriers. They don't know. They just been a policy been in place for 20 years and no one never challenged it. When you have now an untapped pool of individuals who are transitioning out of prison that we see help wanted ads everywhere, and you have over 600,000 people transitioning out of prison every year, why not tap into that? So what we do is educate them about this. Because right now we have a shortage of companies looking for people. Why not? Let's change these policies. And it may start down with educating them about what is the fear. Let's address the fear and begin that process. And we see that now moving forward. As I said, Columbia, South Carolina is one of those first states, cities that actually passed that ban the box policy at that time, and it's still in act right now today.
Allison, what do you see when are people coming to you and saying, hey, I want this job, but I'm afraid they're not going to hire me, or if an employer is saying, I just don't want to risk it?
Yeah, so we're lucky. We work with a lot of Nakias, and what I say is, my clients are some of the most loyal employees you're going to find. A lot of times when people come to us, that job that gave them that chance, they've been there for 13 years. And so once somebody takes the time to invest in that person, but to your point of how do you kind of open that door and start that conversation, ban the box is hugely helpful, because we know that 50% of people with a criminal record aren't going to get that callback rate. That's your chances of getting that opportunity to explain what happened and talk about who you are now is so diminished. So if employers will just open that door, sometimes we try to help open that door with a letter about the person's record, because we know the criminal code, it categorizes certain types of behaviors, but two very different sets of circumstances might fall under the same category. It's really only telling part of the story. It's not telling the context for what happened and what the person's done since. So if you're willing to open that door, you're going to get some really loyal employees.
Go ahead.
I was thinking about something Savannah said about entrepreneurship. I think that for me, what I'm learning is my lived experience as a formerly incarcerated person, leveraging my lived experience to be able to create a space for employers. Now I do consulting work, educating employers about why it's so important. And now we're seeing across the country peer-to-peer support specialists, meaning people with lived experience, how valuable we are, right? So even thinking about rehabilitation programs, no one inside of a prison can tell me how to prepare for life after incarceration after 22 years if you never walked in my shoes. So having that lived experience, I think that the Department of Correction and our communities have to stop validating this experience, right? Our lived experience. And I'll say this too in closing, is that you think about me, I served 22 years in prison, and let's look at it as a business. The Department of Corrections, taxpayers of the South Carolina paid over $35,000 a year for one individual. So they paid for 22 years of me to being incarcerated. So now here it is, I'm walking out into this world. The money that you paid, we say almost $1 million that taxpayers paid for me to be rehabilitated. I walk out, you mean to tell me you don't want the return on the investment? The return on the investment is
that's a different way to look at it. Wow.
Leveraging my lived experience, I've successfully navigated, people successfully navigated. Let's leverage that. That's a business model. So I'm just always telling people, let's look at it, not just saying get a job, but there's some people that are true entrepreneurs, and we have to support them as well.
Really quick, Solicitor Gibson, your comments to that and just your reactions to employers who are fearful of hiring individuals with a record.
I mean, you have people like Lester who are here who are there to help you vet and talk to people and understand kind of what the backgrounds are. I think the conversations need to be had, because oftentimes, there are mistakes that people make early in life, and they're going to follow them the rest of their life if they're not able to legally kind of work through some of those pitfalls. And so, for instance, one thing we talk about that I haven't mentioned, youthful offenders. That's an issue that comes up a good bit. People who are under the age of 25 who oftentimes are convicted of crimes. The statute is built so that once you've finished the sentence, come off of probation, if you go 5 years and you're not rearrested and you get in no other legal entanglements, that's something that can be cleaned off your record as well. And so, with those types of matters that happen, conditional discharges, first drug offenses, all of those things can come off. But to speak to the point of people who have been incarcerated and working, we just have to ask, employers you got to talk to people. We talk about building communities here in Columbia, here in the 5th Circuit, Columbia, Kershaw County. You got to talk to Lester. He's here. He's been boots on the ground doing this for years. And what he's trying to do is move this forward. There are many people like Lester, but Lester's a jewel here in our community, and we need to be talking to him and find ways, if your companies that are looking to do better, Find ways so that you can learn a little bit about what the process is. Have the conversations, because there are lots of people who want to work, who've learned their lesson. They're not going back down that road, and they need the opportunity. And so let's invest in them, because the truth is if you're not employing people, if you're not giving them opportunities, and you're limiting their ability to find jobs where they can take care of their families, what options are you leaving them? Let's have that question.
And we're going to end it right over there. Of course, we're going to have a quick break, and we'll be right back after this special edition of Watch Fox Second Chances, Locked Out After Lockup.
So the spread of Fox 27, right?
All right, everyone, welcome back to this special edition of Watch Fox News, our special entitled Second Chances, Locked Out After Lockup. We're getting ready to wrap up this special segment. We've had a number of panel guests who were here. Brian McConkey had some panel guests as well. And so we're bringing back Candace Beasley with Benedict College's Best Lives Center, and again, Lester Young, as well as Fish Solicitor Byron Gibson. And Candace, you mentioned about Benedict College's Best Lives Center. How can we get in touch with you all?
You can, I answer phone calls, emails. People have found me on Facebook. Any way that they reach out, we actually go into the institutions as well. So we start our process there, and it follows us on their journey home.
Okay. Lester, you have been a wealth of information, a wealth of knowledge, and especially from your experience.
Yeah.
There is an event that's taking place next week. Talk to us about that.
Senator Tamika Devine and a few of the partners are coming together to put together a resource fair, a job fair for those who are formerly incarcerated, as well as individuals seeking for employment. It will be at the Eau Claire High School, July the 31st from 10 to 2. This will be an opportunity for individuals to come and seek employment, learn about pardon applications, expungements, and get some of the resources that are available in the community that can possibly help them in that process of transition forward.
Solicitor Gibson, as we close out, any final comments that you would like to make?
I'd just like to thank you guys for what you're doing here at Fox, because one of the things we always talk about, all the negative things that are happening in our communities, but we need to be highlighting the work that's being done here, because this is rehabilitative work, and these are the things that are actually going on in communities that it's keeping communities alive and giving people hope. And we need to talk more about the hope and the positivity and the opportunities that people are having to do better. And we need to talk more about that than some of the shortcomings that we have sometimes.
Candace, final statements, Candace?
I would just say there are resources available, especially if you are someone who has re-entered into society. Take advantage of every resource that is available. We all deal with each other in some type of way. If we don't have it at Benedict, I normally can get you to someone who does. So we just really all work together. I've worked with Lester and Savannah and just different groups.
Lester, final word?
First, I would say thank Fox 57 for seeing the value in this, and then for those who are men and women who are inside of the Department of Correction and getting the chance to see this at some point, I will let them know that hope is at the end of the tunnel, that they can continue to believe that we are an example of what redemption looks like after incarceration. And then for employers that are looking for that opportunity, let's have a conversation. Let's contact me and let's have a conversation about how we can create a more inclusive work environment for those who are formerly incarcerated and see how we can leverage their voices, their lived experience to be an asset to the community through employing them with that opportunity.
We cannot thank you all enough for being part of this panel. We also want to thank our Savannah Grant, who was also part of the panel, and Williams Harrison as well, Brian McConkey, who was there speaking with them. And of course, to everyone who took the time out to watch, we want to remind you again to scan the QR code you see on your screen right there. It will send you directly to all the resources that you need. If you know someone who needs some information, or if you are trying to re-enter into society, this is definitely a first step and a place for you to get all the help that you need. Once again, we want to thank you so much for joining Watch Fox's special edition entitled Second Chances Locked Out After Lockup. For more information, visit our website at watch.com.